Good morning, everybody. It's Marty the JavaScript Party and my buddy Rhett. It is 9:10, and if you pay attention to to my videos, you know that I normally start work right at 9. Yesterday, I worked like an extra hour and a half, so I figured I would start at like a half hour later and knock off an hour earlier today, assuming I get all my work done. If I don't get all my work done, then I'll power through and get my work done. But I have some very specific things that I want to finish today. But anyways, it was kind of good that I got to miss yesterday because it gave me some extra time to kind of think of things, and then I started driving into work at like 6 a.m. and it gave me some time to sort of contemplate what what is going on here. And I think that every so often something will happen while I'm developing that will sort of just change my whole view of some aspect of coding. And one thing I'd never thought about before, and I think that 3 months from now, I'll probably won't even purposely like kind of think through this in this way. But what I never thought about before is when you make a variable and you sign a variable to something, you're doing two things. One, you're creating a variable, and two, you're linking it to a piece of memory. So, um, and generally, I've always considered that just one step, which I think is generally how it's taught. But it really is two steps. And I think when you see something along the lines of, my ST render, let's go to definition. I guess we'll go to definition. And then I think we go here and go to this definition. Yeah. I think when you see something like this, what you're seeing is a pattern, a growth pattern. And I think that this is an intermediary step. Um, and that's what has happened is somebody is starting to realize, oh my gosh, I have memory leaks and I need to figure out what's going on. I need to understand that. And I have seen this in places. I've seen places where it wasn't, where none of these were question marks. And I think that is sort of, okay, so I've seen places where we have interfaces that are defined this way and these tied to objects. And that's it. And I think that that is sort of a pattern that people who do not think about both sides of that equation, the creating a variable and pointing to a piece of memory, like they just don't think about it. In their brain, that's one step. And that was me 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago. Right. And then I think there's a point where you'll see this. I've worked in plenty of places where everything is got a question mark next to it, or every time anything is declared, it's declared as a partial. Um, and In TypeScript, so it's TypeScript partial. So when you make something a TypeScript partial, which I don't do very often, so I can't really give you an example. But when you make something a TypeScript partial, what that's saying is that it doesn't have everything. Um, so it's sort of the equivalent of this, but in the actual code as opposed to just in the TypeScript. So that is sort of, I think that is sort of a sign that you've acknowledged that there's some sort of memory thing, but you haven't really gotten all the way through. And then I've worked at some places where they were super advanced. They had brought in these really brilliant, expert, long-term developer um, people who've kind of gone through the whole crucible and they understand all the pieces. And what you will see is everything is IDs and numbers, and nothing is like an object like this. And that I think is sort of the final frontier. I think that because when I was driving in, I was like, there's just no freaking way that this is going to be the final solution. Like I've looked at way too much code and all that, and there's no way that like this is me starting to understand the problem, not the coming up with the final solution. And and I think what really this is a sign that I took a shortcut, and the shortcut it's not a bad thing. It was just like it seemed like the right thing to me at the time because I wasn't fully aware of what I was doing. Um, but I took a shortcut, and when I took that shortcut, what I did was I made it. I I inadvertently started creating a lot more um, connections or references without thinking about it. And so then I ended up adding this deleted thing because I had a problem, right? Like that actually is probably the first step to starting to be aware of the problem. Because what was happening was I still had renderers in things and things were breaking in runtime. So then I was like, okay, let me add this deleted flag because there's a timing issue. Like I delete it when something happens, blah blah blah. And that was just an excuse. That was wrong. The problem was that there's still references to what it's trying to deal with. So the reference shouldn't even exist. It should just be undefined. So if something tried to work with something that doesn't exist anymore, that should be like a sign, right? Um, but so I don't know. I'm trying to work through this stuff. I'm trying to understand what's going on. But I think that the final thing should be that I don't have an SD camera. I have an SD camera ID. When I want that camera, I go ask for the one reference to that camera. And then if I um, if I delete this thing, there is no reference, so it doesn't matter. And if I delete the ID, if I delete the actual single reference to it, and then whatever goes to get the ID finds out that, hey, that doesn't exist anymore, I can just deal with that, figure out what I need to do. I don't know what the right answer is, but I'm confident that I'll be able to figure it out. So that's where I'm at right now. I think that you probably shouldn't ever store a reference. You should actually just store the ID and then whatever needs to deal with the camera instead of it going to the instead of it just saying, oh, okay, what's my reference? Okay, let me use it. It says, hey, go ahead and give me this thing, and then if if it comes back that that thing doesn't exist anymore, you got a problem that you need to figure out. This just sort of hides potential problem. So I don't really like this solution anymore. So what I want to do is come in here and I just want to see if there's any. I think I can get rid of everything, right? Yeah. See, I don't need this. And I could be wrong about all this, right? Like I'm just growing. I'm growing as a developer. Um, it's a shame because like when you get hired in as a senior developer, there's this sort of false belief that you've learned everything, and you know the day that you've learned everything is the the day that you're a zombie. You are no longer a software developer. You think you're a software developer, but you're not. You're a zombie. That rendered is true. So I think I just added that. And I added this saying error invalid render. I think I want to just get rid of that. I might end up putting that back in, but all right, so let's go ahead and get rid of that. And what we really want to avoid, and I don't know if this is the right thing, but right now in my mindset, what we want to truly avoid at all costs is creating more than one reference to a object unless I mean we could create a reference in this sort of thing where the reference is deleted at the end of the object, right? So like let's say I say, you know, let or const render equals get my render and some kind of service or something, service get my render, like it, and that it's okay because that this is destroyed at the end of this function, right? As soon as we get to this block, this gets created at the beginning of this block and gets destroyed at the end of this block. And like something that they'll ask a lot of times at interviews is like, why not do this var? Because in a lot of like in C sharp, I think var is the better approach. But in this, var means a lot more than you think it means here. What it actually means is to hoist this to the top and to create a variable at the top. That's what it means in JavaScript. I don't know exactly if that's what it does in Angular too. Like, or if Angular ends up behind the scenes when it transpiles this, it ends up converting bars to lets and consts behind the scene. I don't know, but anyway. So I think the next step is I was on the right track, okay, but there was one other thing I needed to. I saved this and I don't know why I didn't just get rid of it. So I think the next step is to go into this. Is it ST renderer? Yeah. And we're going to, I'm hoping that I don't have to I don't think I'm going to have to rebuild this thing from scratch, but I do think that I'm going to be doing a lot of massive refactoring, and I'm going to refactor out loud, and hopefully by the end of this painful, like there's so many of these things throughout this application, this painful refactor, I'll have it solidly in my head to not, like this is the sort of the, this is the learning, this is the hard learning path, right? So I want to turn this to an ST camera ID, and then I want to turn this to a camera a number. That way, I'm not creating a reference to the camera. I'm actually just getting the ID, and then I'm going to ask the camera service for the ID. So, I guess before we do that, let's just make sure. I believe at this point, this is a compilable pile of code. But yeah, I think from here on out, whenever I go and I do sort of an evaluation of code, I'm going to be like, if I see this, I'm going to be like, ooh, there's a problem there. Or if I'm doing a PR and someone creates an object that has a reference, I'll probably be like, hey, do you mind turning that to an ID and then getting the offense, getting a reference to it. And my guess is that like 90% of the time when someone does that, they'll just be doing it just to get through their PR. But I'll also say, it's probably best if we create as few references to the object as possible so that the garbage collector gets them. And that'll probably just go over their head and be like, blah, 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 blah. But it'll probably help them grow as a developer. Like one day, they'll be in enough their situation will put them in a position where it's like, oh, that thing that old dude said makes sense to me now. And then they'll have that sort of, it kind of sets them up for that growth in the future. They won't understand what you're saying at this point, but they will be in a position to understand it when the time comes that they need to understand it. All right, so we were able to compile like that. We're just going to work through this, and it's going to take freaking forever to undo the damage that I have done. Oh, I love that. I love that so much. I always forget how much I just really enjoy looking at ThreeJS things. All right, so this becomes ID, and I think it's one of the benefits of TypeScript is that it breaks. It's gonna break. This would have been so freaking hard to do. Okay, so this would have been actually impossible to do before TypeScript. We were doing a refactor like this would have been more of this would have been more. This would have been a rewrite. We'd have to be like, okay, we're going to rewrite, and we're not going to do this anymore. With TypeScript, there's actually a chance of doing that, and not only that, but the process of fixing this will, in fact, fix this. Okay, so this is a good time too. Like, okay, so right now, this tells us here that this was where this was declared, and then this is where it's broken. We also have other errors too. We're going to fix them one at a time. We're going to take our lumps. We're going to say, thank you, sir. May have another. Okay. So this is supposed to get a 3 camera, and basically I'm supposed to pass it a renderer. So whoever's calling this is broken as well. So I changed this, that it's supposed to get a renderer undefined. But what I want to actually get is a renderer ID, which is a number, and then we want to go to, we're trying to get a ThreeJS camera. So I'm thinking, and this will get easier as we go, but okay, so need to get a 3JS camera from the 3JS 3JS camera service. Yeah, so that's what we're going to do tomorrow is we're going to go to the 3JS camera service. So this is the kind of thing that like right now is really hard, but and I think so we're in the ST renderer service. So we're still on the ST side, but this is going to be really hard at first, and it's going to be difficult to sort of understand, and then it'll become where we completely understand it, and then it'll be because where we don't understand it anymore because it's all muscle memory. And it's the same pattern that we're trying to apply over and over again. And that's the part where you kind of have to really, I don't want to get there. I don't want to get to where I don't understand what's going on. A lot of people, that's what they're trying to get to when they're more of a middling developer. They're trying to get to where, okay, I don't want to understand this. I want to expend as little energy as possible to accomplish the task. And then eventually you get through that, you become a complete zombie where like you can't remember anything, everything's confusing, and then you go, okay, I need to get a grip on my knowledge, and then you kind of have to undo that, and that is a tough situation. So, anyways, yeah. So tomorrow we are going to go to the 3Render camera service, which I hope I have a reference to that. See, this guy's broken. Um, Camera service. I think actually I do call it. I don't put the 3. Yeah, so this is our 3 camera. So we do have our camera service. So if we get our ID, we can get our camera service. We do have a camera service. Camera service. I'm believe. Okay, this is what tomorrow. I'm going to right click on this, and I'm going to go look at that camera service. I'm going to see if there's an ID in there. If there's a function that will, if given the ID, will return the service. And basically what that does is it starts me on the path of only having one camera reference. So when I go to delete that reference, I know it's deleted. Now I do need to add something that says, well, for camera service, I don't have to worry about that because I don't think I can have more than one 3JS camera. I can have more than one ST camera, but I can't have more than one 3JS camera. So I think I can just willy-nilly just wipe it out. But with other parts, I'm going to have to kind of check to see is anybody using this right now. I don't know. But anyways, happy coding, everybody. Bye.